Okay, good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Those of you that are online, welcome. You're missing some good breakfast sandwiches and muffins. You're also having the convenience of being at the comfort of your own office or house. So anyhow, let's go ahead and Jackie, can you give us a program update?
Oh,
Your first up.
Oh, my goodness. I wasn't thinking it. Okay, so we're going to briefly go through where we've been since the last time we
Working
talked.
on that.
And if Natalie, can you
Something
go to the
went
next
wrong.
slide?
Please try again.
We have. Okay, so the obviously highlights since we met, the last meeting was in January. Next slide. We're going to talk about our programs, and I obviously am going to be very brief as I go through these 6 programs, and obviously we're even doing more than this, but I'm going to highlight these. Let's go to the next. Our fiber network is up and running. It's a ring, as you know, that connects about 40 sites now. We're still looking at a few last sites. Go ahead to the next slide. And we have a grant that we've been awarded by the Public Utilities Commission, where we're doing a needs assessment, a market assessment, and we're looking at ways to expand the network. One of the ways we're looking at doing that is trying to find in disadvantaged communities, and maybe you can help us with this if you know this. We're looking at unused buildings that we can create a neighborhood digital center that would bring in high quality digital services to a community with teleeducation, telemedicine, and workforce training. So we're hoping some of our CPUC grant to do that. We also are very actively involved in regional discussions on the digital divide. Next slide. Our local travel network is something we're very excited about. We are, El Segundo has agreed to do a pilot, which we're hoping to start this summer in July. The pilot will include not only routes, but also zones in areas where there are a lot of slow speed residential streets. Instead of designating a specific route, the pilot will be designating a zone or an area that is safe for slow speed vehicles. We're doing a lot of outreach, and we have submitted Measure M applications so that we can build the network out throughout the South Bay. Next slide. And we hope starting in the summer in El Segundo, you're going to see our turtle, which is the wayfinding sign that we're going to be using to designate the local travel network. We're getting a lot of positive feedback when people see the turtle. We get really great feedback. So we're looking forward to putting those signs up throughout the South Bay on our local travel network. Next slide. Transportation projects at our board meeting this month. We're going to be having a very brief report, but talking a little bit about the Vincent Thomas Bridge, which sort of caught us all by surprise. Going to be, if you're not familiar with it, there's a study by Caltrans that's just starting on how they're going to rehab the Vincent Thomas Bridge, which will cause significant traffic disruption in that area. We're looking at the Green Line extension, Green Line Crenshaw operating plan. We're supporting option 2, which is definitely the best option for the South Bay because it gives us through service from our area all the way to the Expo line. And then we just recently made a contribution to assist the Inglewood People Mover to get federal funding. Next slide. Homelessness, we're expecting the homeless count out by June or July. We are the only COG that is doing, Council of Governments, that's doing client aid. What we found is that people need money when they need money, and they cannot wait 2 weeks for the county to give them authorization for a security deposit or an overnight motel stay. So we have actual money that we give to social service agencies when they request it with a justification. It's very, very, this money just doesn't go out. We have a lot of forms they have to fill out and everything, but we give them same day money. And we've had an 80% success rate. We house people with this money, and it's being very, very effective. And so we're continuing that. Our programs, which is the COG and the cities, contribute about 20% of all the positive outcomes in the South Bay. Then the pictures you see on the left are Hawthorne's Bridge of Hope, which is a new pallet shelter, our 3rd in the South Bay. And Cedric Hicks is in there. He's our vice chair, and he was there for the ribbon cutting. Next slide. We get money from SCAG to look at planning, and we have final reports coming out on ADU development in the South Bay, what the status is, what they're used for, are they affordable? just sort of an assessment of where we are with ADUs, and then also commercial redevelopment into housing. The board will probably receive reports on both of those studies sometime in the summer. We have a housing education forum, and we've actually done 6 sessions so far where we have elected officials, planning commissioners, and others from the city. We haven't really opened this up to the general public, but legislative offices can definitely attend. Our next one is May 25th, and it's going to be on climate change. In June, on June 22nd, we're doing one on land use and transportation. Next slide. We have a new round of funding that's coming from SCAG, and we're proposing 2 projects for that round. One is we have a regional housing trust, but it needs to be, we need to develop what it means, what it's going to be, what are the rules and guidelines? Are they going to do loans? Are they going to do grants? What is the opportunity in the South Bay? So we want to hire a consultant to flesh out the logistics and the organization of the Regional Housing Trust. And then we're also going to continue our study of commercial redevelopment, because there is a new tool that SCAG has that we want to make available to our cities. And we're going to be applying for those 2 in the next month. Next slide. Metro also has competitive grants that they're getting through SCAG. And we have 2 very interesting projects that we've already submitted. One is for micromobility hubs. We would use this with our digital center. I mentioned to you we would have a digital access. Well, we want to combine that with a mobility hub for the community so that they would be connected to our local travel network and regional travel. And that would be that study. The second study, which is very interesting, I think, is about parking. We can lower the cost of development if we can lower the cost of parking. And no parking just impacts the neighborhood. But if we had micro mobility devices, you could stick 4 of those where you could stick a car. And so we're looking at how do you make micro mobility an option for developers when they're building multi-unit dwellings and other places, so that you can have parking, level 1 charging, and the residents can have the opportunity for their own mobility. Next slide. Our environmental programs continue. They're flagship programs of the COG. We are doing, we have 2 newsletters, and you can see them. I think Natalie will send this out to anybody that wants, but we're doing we have climate action plans that we're updating right now so that cities can find out how they're progressing. It's one thing to do the climate action plan, but if you don't update where you are with the greenhouse gas emissions, you don't know how well you're doing. So we're doing that right now for cities. And then we also are partnering with water agencies on water programs. And we go to over 100 events a year with our volunteers. Next slide. Yeah, here's more work with the sanitation district. We help cities with required benchmarking reports. And we also have our Green Business Network for at least 3 cities who have gotten state funds to do this. And you can see we've certified lots of businesses in our cities that are involved in that program. Next slide. And that's it. So that's just a smattering of what we're doing. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions either now or at any time that you have them. And if there's anything you see on the state or federal level that can help us, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Are there any questions at this time? All right, it's early, so I get it. All right, well, everyone, thank you so much.
Quick question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Question, Jackie. When you said you were supporting option 2, was that with regard to what was that with regard to relative to the metro?
Okay, the Crenshaw operating plan, the way the Crenshaw line is going to come through LAX is up. It has nothing to do with the Green Line extension. It has to do with how the Crenshaw line comes through LAX and how they're going to build, how it connects to the Green Line. And there are 3 options. One option, the 2 options have us having to transfer to get to LAX pretty much. And the 3rd option has us going straight through. So obviously we want the option that has us going straight.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you for the clarification.
Great. And if anyone has questions or comments during the program, if you could use the raise your hand, that helps me because there's 34 participants and a lot of small screens that I'm looking at. All right, so we're going to start off today with our federal representatives and get a perspective from the Capitol and their priorities for the district. And then we're going to do some Q&A after they give some presentations. Because of time constraints, we'd like to limit each speaker to about 5 minutes if you can. And I see some smiles. We'll do our best to limit. But, and then, of course, we'll have questions at the end if we want to have that, and public comment as well. So I think our first representative that's been confirmed, if Jeanette Christian is available, there she is on the screen. Jeanette, the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, Jeanette Christian, Senator Feinstein's office. Thanks for having me this morning. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. Sounds like a yummy breakfast. I guess the big news, as many of you have read in the papers and heard, Senator Feinstein has returned to DC last week to resume her duties in the Senate. She will be having a lighter schedule as she continues to recover from her shingles diagnosis. During the recovery, she plans to be voting and tackling a few important issues facing the Senate. One is judicial nominations at the Judiciary Committee to consider the president's nominees and to vote, and she's been voting last week and this week. Another issue that was one of the COG's question was about the debt ceiling, and the senator returned because she does not want our government to default on its financial obligations. At this point, I think we're still not sure if and when the default will happen. The bottom line, it's going to be a very hard proposal to pass both the House and the Senate. I know we have a few House offices on the Zoom, so maybe they can speak a little bit more, but I know Senator McCarthy has some support and he's the one negotiating directly with the White House. But the senator, she's there to ensure we get the 60 votes that we need in the Senate. At this point, I believe speculations that it could be as early as June or as late as August when the default happens. Moving on, you asked a question about electric vehicles. So the diversity of electric vehicles, Senator Feinstein supports a rapid transition to zero carbon electricity like wind and solar. As we've seen in the last few years, the state's storage needs to be available when our demand is the highest. So she supports forms of zero carbon energy, like last year supporting the extension of the Diablo Canyon power plant, which supplies 10% of the state's electricity. And it's important to keep existing carbon-free electricity online while we're also building more new renewable energy. The senator has been supportive of the state's hydrogen hub application at the U.S. Department of Energy. So green hydrogen produced in the state could be used to generate baseload electricity and decarbonize sectors like heavy-duty trucking, ports, and manufacturing. I could probably go on a little bit more if you want more about energy, but I also just wanted to flag last few months, we were doing appropriations and the senator did make her choices public last month. In the chat, I can put the links to each subcommittee so you can see the projects that we chose. We had a few in the South Bay and we had over 1,000 applications. So it was a really busy season for us as we met with all the cities and the counties and tried to figure out the best way we can ensure that California gets the money it deserves. Last year, we were able to get $336 million and had a lot of projects in the South Bay. So we're hopeful that this year we can have the same success and it should be marked up. They said May, so I said, I think the subcommittees are working to mark up hopefully in June and July and we can take a better look. So if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Are there any questions for Jeanette? Okay. Well, thank you so much for the update and we appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay. I believe the next speaker is from Congressmember Nanette Berrigan's office. Is Casey Hervey available?
Yes, hi, everyone. Hope
Good
everybody's
morning.
doing well.
Yes, thank you, Casey.
All right, so I had some answers to your questions written up just because I want to ensure that from our DC team, just to ensure that we got everything. So for the first question about the debt limit, that one's hard to say. What is your opinion of how this impasse will be resolved? That one's hard to say. Republicans are refusing to raise the debt ceiling unless there are spending cuts and additional bureaucratic red tape around SNAP and Medicaid programs. President Biden is negotiating with them, and it's hard to say if there will be a deal. If there is a deal, it'll probably involve spending cuts to critical domestic, environmental, housing, and transportation programs, which the Congresswoman does not support. For the EV question, the infrastructure law that Democrats and President Biden passed in 2021 includes significant investments in battery supply chains, battery recycling, and production. And the Inflation Reduction Act incentivizes both domestic battery production and supply chains, as well as invest hundreds of billions of dollars in clean energy. So while it will not be easy, we are taking the steps necessary to meet our zero emission vehicle targets. Also, the alternative is the status quo of unhealthy air and polluted communities, and that's not an acceptable alternative. And then for question number 3, the federal government can support local governments and community organizations by providing critical funds to these entities to connect unhoused individuals to housing and reduce barriers to housing. For example, 70% of Los Angeles County's unsheltered adult population has had involvement in the criminal justice system. The Congresswoman introduced the Returning Home Act to support public entities and community organizations through funding to provide housing assistance and support for individuals with a conviction history. In addition, the last Congress, Democrats made significant investments in housing and homelessness programs, including funding for new constructions and the acquisition or rehabilitation of new permanent supportive housing to expand housing options for people experiencing homelessness. And as the co-chair, the Congresswoman of the Congressional Caucus on Homelessness, she will continue to advocate for robust funding for these programs that addresses homelessness in our communities. So those are just some brief write-ups that I can also forward over to you, so that we'll have that on hand for our office. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for your time. Any questions at this time for Casey? And please raise your hand if you have any. Okay,
Can I?
yes, of course.
We were sort of, I don't know if you know this, Casey, but we were sort of surprised about the Vincent Thomas Bridge rehab. Does Congresswoman Berrigan have any position on what should happen with Vincent Thomas Bridge?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question one more time? You broke up a little bit for me.
No, I'm sorry, the Vincent Thomas Bridge rehab program that Caltrans is proposing, I don't know, it's going to be a big traffic disruptor. They might need help with further funding. Does Congressman Berrigan have any, has she been involved in that at all?
I'll have to follow back up with Sean, who covers that area, and then I'll send you an update about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next speaker we have is from Ted Lieu's office. If Karen Calderon is available.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Happy
Hi, Karen.
Thursday. Very happy to be here. So from the Congressman's office, I do want to give a brief background on some of the things he's been working on before answering the Q&A. So this year he's been added to the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. And so a huge focus of his has been on AI and regulating AI. I think that's something that's been really popular this year with ChatGPT. And I think AI is something that a lot of people are becoming more aware about. So he's trying to find ways to regulate it so that, I think one of the bills that he introduced this year was in order to be able to stop AI from launching any from blocking AI from being able to launch any like nuclear weapons and things like that. And it's a lot of things that we don't think about, but the Congressman's really trying to look ahead as to potential issues that we could come down the line. He's also been focusing on a few bills that are really important to some of our South Bay partners, in particular the South Bay Aerospace Alliance and the Los Angeles Air Force Base. So with that, he is co-sponsoring the Military Spouse Hiring Act. And really what that does is it creates a work opportunity tax credit for employers that want to hire military spouses. Right now, the rate of unemployment for military spouses is about 7 times as high, or 7 times higher than the national rate of unemployment. And so the hope is that that bill would incentivize employers to hire military spouses who often have to leave and uproot their lives in order to support their service member. The other major bill that we are really happy to be co-sponsoring is the Basic Allowance for Housing Restoration Act. And so that would essentially have the United States cover 100% of the housing costs that's associated with service members that live in particular areas. That's been a really big issue for a lot of service members that reside in the South Bay with the cost of housing. and only having a stipend that covers 95% of their housing cost. And so that's one of the other major bills that we've been working on. I'm also really happy to announce that we've selected our 15 projects that we'll be advocating for in our community project funding. So we received, dozens of applications, and of the 15 projects that were selected, 7 of them are in the South Bay. So I would quickly like to go over those projects. So with that, there is, and these numbers are subject to change, but these are the amounts, the initial amounts that we're advocating for. And there's a lot of rounds that have to happen, but the first project would be 1.8 million to mitigate the risk of landslides in the city of Rolling Hills, 322,000 to upgrade El Segundo's Emergency Operations Center with new technology and equipment, 4 million for the Hermosa Beach Real-Time Crime Center, 4.7 million to help prevent stormwater pollution in downtown Lomita, 1 million to help mitigate flooding conditions in Manhattan Beach, 3.6 million to enhance the local economy in Redondo Beach by replacing the docks at the Redondo Beach Marina, 2 million to construct environmentally friendly artificial turf sports fields at Columbia Park in Torrance, and 1 million to open a new workforce training center in the South Bay for individuals with disabilities. And again, those numbers are subject to change, but that's where they are at right now. And so we're really looking forward to advocating for those in the appropriations process and have that signed into law at the end of the year. And then I see somebody has their hand up. I'm not sure if that's for me.
Olivia, do you have a question for Karen?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. You mentioned a bill that will support employment of military spouses. What is the number of that bill and what stage is it in?
Yeah, so the number of that bill is HR 1277. Currently, that bill is still in committee, so it hasn't reached the floor yet. But I'm happy to provide updates to the South Bay COG and the South Bay Aerospace Alliance with the progression of that bill.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Karen, thank you so much. Any other questions for Karen at this point?
Karen, can you, if letters from the Council of Governments to some place would help with any of those South Bay projects, could you let us know and we can maybe send some letters and tell us where?
Yeah, that would be great. We still have to do a lot of advocacy for all of these projects. And so we're happy to reach out to the COG when letters of support may make sense.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you for coming and giving us that update. Okay, and then let's see, the next federal representative would be from Congressmember Maxine Waters' office, if Hamilton Cloud is available.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. As you probably know, Congresswoman Waters feels very strongly that housing and homelessness is the most serious problem facing both the federal government and all of our local governments. And as former chairwoman of the House Financial Services Committee, she secured critical housing relief, including $46.5 billion in emergency assistance that has helped stabilize over 6 million renters, $14 billion in homelessness assistance, including the first of its kind emergency housing voucher program targeted to people experiencing homelessness. Nearly 7,000 new vouchers were made available through the city and county of Los Angeles. With these funds, we've helped to rehouse and provide services to over 140,000 people experiencing homelessness, including in the city of Los Angeles, where the goal was to rehouse at least 10,000 people. Additionally, we provided $10 billion in homeowner assistance funds, with California receiving over $1 million to establish the nation's largest state-administered homeowner assistance fund. Over $106.5 million in assistance has already helped more than 3,500 families across LA County avoid foreclosure and remain stably housed. She says, while we've made incredible strides, much more is needed to fully address the epic proportions of our nation's housing crisis. This is why during the last Congress, I tried with President Biden to secure over $150 billion for fair and affordable housing investments in the Build Back Better Act. The bill included historic levels of funding to increase the supply of affordable housing, including 24 billion for new housing choice vouchers, which would have funded more than 300,000 additional vouchers, and 67 billion to expand and improve public housing and funding to help local governments streamline barriers to housing development, such as zoning laws, and to increase local capacity for housing inspections and permitting in order to speed up the affordable housing production process. As you know, those efforts were blocked by the Senate, where it died. But she feels very strongly that if people can communicate to their Republican representatives on the Senate side, especially, that funding will go a long way towards helping local governments and state governments address housing. We also wanted to make you aware of two targeting funding opportunities that are coming up today with target dates of today and tomorrow. The Department of Energy is going to announce a funding opportunity for $52 million for communities, including local and state governments, that seek to advance the mission and vision of the Joint Office by addressing discrete challenges to a convenient, affordable, reliable, and equitable electric vehicle charging network. The funding is focused on enhancing EV charging resilience, equitable access and opportunity in electrification, and improving EV charging performance and reliability. And then the second opportunity is for energy infrastructure reinvestment financing. The Department of Energy is going to be releasing a rule and guidance related to the Energy Infrastructure Reinvestment Financing Program, which will guarantee loans to projects that retool, repower, repurpose, or replace energy infrastructure that has ceased operations, or that enable operating energy infrastructure to avoid, reduce, utilize, or sequester air pollutants or greenhouse gases. If any of you are interested in these two funding opportunities and want more information, you can reach out to me in our office at 323-757-8900. And obviously we are all watching with bated breath the debt ceiling process, which is going on. Hopefully they are finally talking to each other, the four leaders of Congress on the Senate side and the House side and the White House. And hopefully this weekend they're going to reach an agreement. In case they don't, one of the other actions that the Democrats are pursuing is a potential discharge petition, which would force a clean vote on the debt ceiling, and the Congresswoman has signed that petition. If there are any questions, let me know.
I believe there is Councilman Abaji.
Sure. Thanks for all that information on the Department of Energy grants, if you will, or opportunities. Do you have the names of those programs by chance?
Not the specific names of it, but I will get that for you.
Okay, thank you.
And circle back to you.
And that was relative to the EV charging and the replacement of the defunct power facilities.
Okay, will do.
If you send it to us, we can send it out to everybody.
Okay, will do.
Okay, very good. Any other questions for Hamilton? Well, thank you so much for taking time and giving us that update. We really appreciate that. So it looks like in terms of federal representatives, that does it for that grouping. The next we'll move to state representatives and give perspective from Sacramento, priorities in their districts, and a little Q&A, and maybe just go ahead if you want to answer some of the questions we pre-sent you, go ahead and go for it, just like the federal reps did. And we're fortunate to have in person with us today, Senator Ben Allen's office, Alina Wilbro-Benson.
Hi, everyone. Long time no see. I'm happy to be here in person. Nice to see you, Vic. This is a semi-poorly timed meeting for me today, just because all of our bills are sitting in appropriations or are actually going to be approved or not approved today at noon. So I actually don't really have a legislative update because I don't know what's surviving and what's not. It is clear to us that this legislative session is going to be a lot tighter than previously because, as you will see in my budget update, we're not doing so hot at the moment, guys, at the state. So there will be a lot of cutbacks. A lot of bills that have any financial ties to them may not go through this year. We are not cutting our belts, but we're tightening our belts a little bit this year. So like I said, legislative update will be next time just because they will have more of an idea of what survives and what doesn't. But in terms of budget, on May 12th, the governor did come out with his May revise for the budget year of 23 and 24. And this new budget projects a general fund expenditure of about $224.1 billion with available resources of $233.2 billion and $3.8 billion in the special fund for economic uncertainty, which is the state's general fund reserve. The budget total shortfall is projected to be $31.5 billion. And this decline is due to a shortfall of personal income tax, inflationary trends, which I think we all saw coming, and a dampened economic indicators. We have $37.2 billion in budgetary reserves, and 21.3 of those are in our rainy day fund, which we talk about every year. Senator Allen's a really big fan of this rainy day fund, and we're happy that we're continuing to put funding into that for the future. There is no recession projected at this point in California. While revenue is down, any of these kind of heavier economic risks seem to be tapered for the moment. So as of the revise, that is not taken into account. The Department of Finance did find that inflation was falling faster than expected, which did kind of help us out a little bit. At this time last year, we were at 5.9%. Right now we're at 5%, and that's in comparison to the 9.1% in, I think, June or July of last year. So quite a difference, I would say. Job growth does continue to be a little lack. It's at a slower pace than we initially expected. This is, though, in comparison to the COVID job growth numbers that we saw, which of course are going to be extremely high. We saw that huge dip in employment and that fast reintroduction of employment to the market. So I don't personally feel like that's a really fair comparison, but just compared to the last couple of years of that COVID regeneration, it's going to be slower. So we do have to take that in consideration. I know that the COG is very invested in homelessness in the area. I do have to know that there was no changes in the May revise from the initial budget of any homelessness funding. I do know that there were a couple of questions, and I did have a couple of facts for the energy question that was asked about the differentiation or the diversity in California's energy schemes. In 2022, renewable resources, including hydro and small scale solar, accounted for 49% of California's state generation. Natural gas fuel about 42%. And then nuclear power, which we do have, and everyone forgets about that, supplied the rest of that energy. So still small, but it's there and present. A little fun fact, California is the 7th largest producer of crude oil in the 50 states. And as of 2022, it's the 3rd highest crude oil refining capacity state, which I think a lot of people don't know, especially in Southern California. Until you make that drive up through Bakersfield and such, you forget that we have such a big oil economy still in this state. We are the largest consumers of jet fuel and the 2nd highest consumers of motor oil in the entire 50 states. And in 2022, we were the 4th largest producer of electricity in the nation, 3rd largest electric consumers. This year's budget has $1 billion in it for the Clean Energy Reliability Investment Plan pursuant to SB 846. And I think, as we all know, the governor did sign in the green energy goals for 2030 to change over the bulk of California's energy into more renewable resources. And that is a goal that we continue at the state, and every year we're funding. So I hope that kind of hit the points of the question. And I remember, I don't want to answer all of them because I know there's a couple other state offices, but there was a question about the presence of a lot of bills in Sacramento that kind of attack or take away local control. And this is a conversation we've had with the COG for years about several housing bills, especially that are coming down from the state And our office is very, we understand the concerns of the COG. We have to remember that there's a lot of different representatives in the state. Housing is very different in every part of the state. So I don't think any one of these senators or assembly members come down and say, we're going to attack the South Bay because it's, more of a rural community. It's not their goal, but we do certainly have an open dialogue with our cities and our districts. And we do very heavily take that back to Sacramento. We've brought some representatives down with these bills to the COG before to have these conversations, and we'll continue to do so. Will they stop? Probably not, just because there is an issue that needs to be addressed, but we're trying to come up with a more equitable answer to these bills. It is not one size fits all, and we're very, very well aware of that. So I think that maybe hit the nail on
That was
the head.
great update. Thank you. And we know you're in flux in terms of the bills moving forward.
Yeah.
When I was in January, I visited with the senator during the Contract City event, and we were talking about senior citizens and how there's a lot of seniors that live in the South Bay. And we know that a lot of the bills rely on being disadvantaged communities. And he realized that a lot of seniors have fixed incomes and they probably fit into that mold as well. Is there any update from the senator in regards to that?
I don't personally have one. Any of the bills that be going through for disadvantaged communities this year still haven't been, if they have any financial tie, then I don't know if they have survived or not. I can go through and let you know. But that is something that the state has to consider, is that we have an aging population. The world does, but especially in California, we have a lot of our wealth centered in older and aging populations that are just not regenerating. So that's definitely something that the state's looking at. We have to. And I'll let you know if I
So much. Are there any other questions for Alina? Okay, I don't see any. That was a terrific update. Thank you so much for being here. And tell everyone how great the breakfast is.
It's good, everyone.
We have a lot of empty seats, always pushing people to come join us in person. All right, great. So next up from Senator Stephen Bradford's office, we're hoping that Jasmine Leon Guerrero is here today. Oh, yeah.
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, and sorry I can't be there in person. I actually have to be 3 places at once this morning, so you can do that virtually. So here I am. But I hope everyone had a great Mother's Day weekend. This past weekend, I just wanted to touch a little bit on the senator. He's the chair of the Energy, Utilities, and Communications Senate Committee. He's also vice chair of the California Legislative Black Caucus, as well as a member of the California Reparations Task Force. I first wanted to speak about the bills that have garnered a lot of media attention recently. But like Alina said, we'll actually know a lot more and have a better update after today, because that's when everything's going to be voted on. But one of the bills is SB 673. That's the California Ebony Alert. So this addresses the widespread issue of missing young African-American women and children by creating this emergency notification system similar to the Amber Alert. About 40% of children reported missing in the US that are Black, and while only 14% of the US population is Black. So that's a huge disparity of numbers. And these Black children are actually disproportionately classified as runaways in comparison to their white counterparts who are classified as missing. So Black children do not receive the same benefits of the Amber Alert. This actually passed the Public Safety Committee, and right now it's in appropriations. Another bill is SB 50. This is called pretextual stops. So in the wake of Tyre Nichols' brutal and heartbreaking death, the senator was really eager to push the right kind of legislation that would enhance public safety to all Californians. So this bill would prohibit police officers from making traffic stops for low-level non-safety related violations. This would therefore reduce the potential to harm more innocent members of the public, as well as some of these officers, right? And some of these low-level violations could include a busted taillight or tinted windows or some expired tags, things of that nature. And SB 50 passed the Senate Public Safety Committee and the Appropriations Committee. So the hearing is actually set for today. And one of the other ones that we're really excited about is SB 873. This is the Prescription Drugs Cost Sharing Bill. And this would ensure patients are better able to afford their medication. This would happen by reforming the state's prescription drug rebate system. So basically, not to get too deep into it, but 90% of manufacturer rebates would then be passed on to the customers at the pharmacy counter. And so where insurance companies making money, they'll need to pass on those savings to the customer. So this was passed the Senate Health and Appropriations Committee, and the hearing is also set for today. And to touch on some of the questions, so the question about how we're keeping our residents from wanting to leave LA County and California. So from experience, right, it has a lot to do with the high cost of living in California, which has driven a lot of people out. The cost of housing and rent is ridiculously high. And so people are looking to go where their money goes further, right? And cost of gas, for example, this was a huge talking point earlier this year. The senator, as chair of the Senate Energy and Utilities Committee, had passed the first in the nation legislation about 2 months ago to require oil companies to account for high gasoline prices. So the legislation SBX 1-2, I believe, will create an oversight and transparency into the California gas marketplace. And I also really want to highlight that this legislation was carefully created not to hurt customers as well as the many residents that work in the industry. So in the senator's district, he actually represents Torrance Refinery, Phillips 66, Marathon, Valero. So he just wanted to make sure he protected and who employ thousands of the local residents. So he wanted to make sure he's protecting their livelihood as well. So by creating and supporting legislation like this and what makes sense and continues to work for the community is a priority for the senator. And this is what he keeps fighting for in the legislation. And as for the cost of living, just to touch on housing, there's a widespread shortage of affordable permanent housing that continues to drive Californians out of state and some into homelessness. So this is where local and state government intersect, right? The legislature understands that it's critical to invest in expanding the state's supply of affordable housing, especially rental housing for those with the lowest of incomes. But both housing developments and tenant-based rent subsidies play a huge role in making housing more affordable. And I think this is a perfect segue to the other question about homelessness. Like I said, partnership between state, federal, and local governments is so important to mobilize the resources needed to impact at this scale, right? And I just want to take the time to thank COG for their housing programs that Jackie spoke about and supporting the unhoused community. We actually went to the Hawthorne Bridge of Hope project from the groundbreaking to the very end, the opening, and we think Hawthorne is just a great example for other cities to model. And, speaking of housing, California first dedicated significant state dollars to address homelessness only a few years ago. And so the state investments have primarily consisted of one-time funding. So the 2021-22 budget first included a multi-year commitment for $1 billion annually to support local homelessness efforts with the intent to continue based on the performance of it and as needed. And the 2022-23 state budget further built on these investments, maintaining that $1 billion investment annually, as well as incorporating another $1 billion to expand bridge housing for individuals experiencing serious mental illness who are homeless as well. And, it's also important to note COVID was a key factor in all this, and legislators had to pivot to implement new approaches, and they had to be a little bit creative, and this definitely helped in preventing a substantially larger increase in a number of Californians experiencing homelessness. You have to think about that too. But at the end of the day, homelessness is very complex, and there isn't a one size fits all, and there's no way to really solve it in one go. So it's important to maintain and build on the recent investments to address the homelessness, as well as to meet it at the full scale it is. And I'm optimistic. So I think ending homelessness is possible, but persistence is definitely required. So there are many opportunities for the state to leverage its resources. And as far as the question on diverse energy portfolio, so the Senator Bradford specifically does not have any bills at the moment that have anything related to diverse energy, but Like I said, he's the chair of the Energy Committee, and there has been some related legislation that comes through the committee and that he's passed through, and the senator is in complete support of. So one bill, for example, is Archuleta's SB 663. And this includes renewable hydrogen. The senator agrees it should be a part of the renewable portfolio standard, if you all know what RPS is. But the senator is also in constant communication with organizations and stakeholders, and actually just met with the Advanced Clean Hydrogen and Mobility just yesterday to discuss the work in California to accelerate the transition to green energy and their commitment to providing safe and accessible low to zero carbon energy in the near future. So thank you. And that's all for me. Oh, sorry, real quick. Sorry. We actually have a back to school fair. I just wanted to put that on everybody's radar. It's going to be on August 5th. Last year, we had our first annual and we purchased 500 backpacks stuffed with supplies. And we also had this really nice resource fair for kids and families to take advantage of. 250 were donated to us. So we had a total of 750, and that just flew off the shelves so fast. So this year we're trying to ramp it up and do 1,000 backpacks and then try and get support more families this year. So that's again on August 5th, and I'll send Natalie the save the date and the flyer once we have it, from 10 a.m. to 5 at Cal State Dominguez Hills. Thanks so much.
Oh, that's terrific, Jasmine. And being in 3 meetings at once, I can only imagine you've like rehearsed this one. It seems like it was so well said. Thank you. Okay, great. Looks like there's no questions. You've covered everything. We'll go to the next representative, Assembly Member Mike Gibson's office, if Mark Fuentes is available.
Right here. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, Mark.
Perfect. And again, I just want to thank the SBCCOG group for, again, inviting our office as usual to attend these legislative updates. And we are very happy to be here. And I'm happy to be representing the Assembly Member on behalf of the 65th Assembly District. And again, I just want to just quickly go over, just the cities that we, of course, represent, which, encompasses, the Watts Willowbrook area, the Compton area, Northern Long Beach, Carson, San Pedro, Harbor City, and the Harbor Gateway areas. And again, we are very proud to be representing all the residents within those respective cities. And as well with that, I just, again, like to update everyone in regards to the members' committees that he is a part of. Some being, the Business and Professions Committee, Government Organization, Insurance, Transportation, as well as the select committees of Domestic Violence, Los Angeles County Homelessness. He's also the chair of Police Reform and Ports and Goods Movement, just to name a few. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and start answering some of the questions that SBCCOG provided our office to answer, and we'll go from there. So first, I do know that one of the questions that were asked of our office was, what our office are doing in regards to keeping residents here within the state of California. And, what are we doing to prevent those individuals from wanting to, kind of leave the state. And I have a number of bills that we have introduced for the 2023-2024 legislative package that I did want to quickly share with you guys. So just give me 1 second. One of those bills is, again, the member is very interested and very committed to, employment opportunities for individuals within our district. And one bill that he did introduce not too long ago was AB 694, which is the bill that supports future teachers. And again, the aim for this bill was to streamline the process for qualified individuals interested in participating in teacher residency programs to ensure that they are paid and prepared. Along with that bill, we also introduced AB 1189, which is career tech training, which intends to advance youth education by making career technical educational programs available in all middle and high school settings to ensure that every child gains access to secure paths. And again, the point of that bill is to, again, provide opportunities for students who might not be able to see, themselves probably going the traditional route of going to a college, and again opening that avenue of career and technical trades, and again to make sure that we maximize the opportunities available to the youth of the future. And as well as that, we also introduced AB 1271, which is going the distance for our cardroom workers, seeking to streamline the licensing process for employees working at gambling establishments by requiring a single license to work at multiple gambling enterprises and extend the period in which the license is valid. And again, this would just make the process of cardroom workers, getting licensed that much easier. And again, we want to avoid all the red tape that comes, with trying to work in those settings, and just again make it very, very easy and streamlined for individuals to continue to be employed and to avoid, unemployment at worst. With that, I also wanted to talk about the AB 1498, which is the Cal EITC bill, which proposes the establishment of a minimum of California earned income tax credit of $300 to benefit approximately 2.6 million workers without dependents and 500,000 workers with dependents. And with that, that's kind of in just what our office is doing again to provide incentives for individuals that are hardworking individuals here in the state of California, to aid them, with their daily living, and to make sure that again they have the opportunities needed to confront any issues that they might come face to face with. The next question that I believe that we were asked was, can you speak on the diverse energy portfolio, which encompasses green hydrogen, natural gas, electricity. I do have two bills that I quickly wanted to share, which is one of them being AB 543, which is the marine sales tax extension. Again, this bill intends to extend the marine fuel sales tax exemption to prevent the loss of jobs, loss of business and port revenues, and loss of state and local tax and fees. Because we have noticed that in regards to the requirements that the governor has been asking of businesses in regards to his 2030, I believe, green initiative. There has been some issues with businesses trying to reach those intended goals, and again, we just want to provide methods in which we could assist those businesses who are having troubles with reaching those goals, and again make it a little easier for individuals to navigate that system. Moving forward, we also have AB 844, which is our insurance accelerator program, which supports the rapid deployment of new, cleaner truck technologies by directing the California Department of Insurance to collect data on this emerging marketplace, to identify potential barriers to expanding insurance options, and provide both the insurance regulator and air quality regulator with critical and timely information to inform policy alternatives. Again, just making sure that we cover all of our bases and make sure everyone is accounted for depending on their situation. And again, we are always open to having discussions in regards to clean air, what our efforts are in regards to making sure that Californians feel comfortable here in the state. So again, those are just a couple of initiatives that we have been tackling. Moving along, we also had a question asked that stated that regards to the local control issue that I know that some of the offices previously that are already presented kind of touched upon. And again, I believe in the last meeting, I've mentioned that, the assembly member is, very supportive of local agencies, local state agencies within the state of California. And he has already, extended his opinion on this matter and said that, he is definitely against any bills that would affect local autonomy. And again, he still stands by that comment. And again, he is always happy to work with local government agencies to make sure, again, that they are being represented the way that they should, and to make sure that we as a state agency are doing the best in our power to make sure that that continues to stay that way, and they continue to have the control that they need to function properly. So again, the member is very supportive of local government agencies and will continue to support them as best as he can. Moving forward, there's the question of homelessness within the state of California. And to that regard, we have been very staunch about, supporting any homelessness initiatives, and have been working with a lot of local agencies, especially with the city of Los Angeles, to address those issues. We have been working very, very closely with CD8, which is Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson's office, as well as CD15 with Tim McCosker's office to support local efforts to tackle the homeless situation, as well as working with other local cities within our district as well. And, we aren't afraid to, again, open those conversations up to make sure that we are addressing the situation. And again, one way that we thought of, addressing it is, again, making sure that employment opportunities are always accessible to individuals within our district. And with that, I believe those are the questions that were presented to us. And again, I'm happy to take any questions that you guys might have regarding what I've been talking about. But before I get to that, I just want to quickly plug in a local event that we're going to be having, which is the HERE event, which is the Home Ownership Education and Resource event that we're actually partnering up with Senator Bradford's office as well, which is going to be Friday, June 16th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at Magic Johnson Park. And again, this is tailored to, first-time home buyers, to educate them on how they could go ahead and navigate the system of buying their first home. So again, we are very excited for that, and we'd love for the SBCC OG to help share this amongst your social groups. So I will be sharing that within the group chat shortly. But if there's any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, we do have one question, but and we'll take one question from Olivia. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for your presentation. Your representative and so many representatives have a lot of initiatives to support the homelessness projects in the local areas. What statistics do you have to show that any of these efforts have resulted in the reduction of homelessness?
So off the top of my head, I could safely say that I do not know what the statistics are to, how much, we have affected and curbed the percentage of homelessness within our district and, across the state of California. But I would be more than happy, again, to connect you with our capital team, who probably will have that information that you're looking for. So if you'd like, I'm also going to be sharing my email down in the chat box below. You could definitely send me an email, and then we could link up and discuss that right after the meeting.
Can you also send that information to the COG?
Of course.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Olivia. Mark, thank you so much for coming and giving a presentation on what's going on in your office. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Okay, next up from Assembly Member Josh Lowenthal is either Clayton Hurd or Lizette Chenal. I'm not sure.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can. Thank you for being here.
Perfect. I'm Lizette, obviously. But quickly, just to kind of do a little recap on what the Assembly member is doing as far in Sacramento. I want to discuss quickly what committees he's on. So he's also on the Appropriations Committee, Business and Professions, Privacy and Consumer Protection, and Transportation. So I feel like the committees that he's on kind of go hand in hand with some of the interests that the COG has. But also thank you so much for letting me be here and for speaking on behalf of the Assembly member. With that, I do also want to talk about some of the legislative bills that he is currently working on and where they're at. For the most part, almost all of the bills have passed committee, and some of them are currently sitting in like appropriations. And some of the bills that he's most excited about, specifically because, he has 3 younger daughters, are in regards to like mental health with social media. So one of the bills that we've been getting a lot of press for is AB 10, and this bill specifically focuses on the California Education Board basically having like a model for school teachers to kind of advocate for mental health. So if students are experiencing any body shaming or anything of that sort, they are allowed to kind of mitigate it and talk about it, because oftentimes we see that a lot of students, especially younger girls, are experiencing a lot of body shaming within social media. So even if they leave school, they're still experiencing that. So this way, teachers kind of have a way to talk about it, and this would be spread throughout all of California, and hopefully then districts across California would adopt this policy. Another thing that he's really excited that he's working on is AB, sorry, give me 1 second. It is AB 1013, and AB 1013, basically what it allows for is drug testing devices within businesses. So for example, if you are a bar owner, or if you have any place that's really serving alcohol, basically they would this would allow for the businesses to sell these drug testing devices, so that if anybody is worried about their drinks being tampered with, they have the opportunity to use these devices. Unfortunately, we see that there's a big increase in like date rape recently. So that is one of the big things that the assembly member is working on, and as far as making sure that everybody stays safe. But I'm gonna steer back to some of the questions that were asked today. So as far as what the assembly member, or like what the state is doing to keep residents from wanting to leave LA County and California, the biggest thing is really just working on like clean air, water, supporting new and emerging economies. So as far as here, like in Long Beach, we have the port. So we actually have one of the cleanest ports in the world. And I think that's really significant, because it kind of goes to show how we are leading in California alone, but also just in Long Beach, and in making sure that our economy is green, and also that the work that we're doing continues to move forward. Also in Long Beach, we have a pretty significant aerospace industry, and this aerospace industry is helping us in our economy. We recently had a space beach here in Long Beach, and basically they discussed all of the new projects that they've been working on, from Spin Launch, which is like this company that literally spins like their satellites up and it just launches, rather than having to do it another way with like rocket fuel, etc. So again, kind of working on making sure that everything is cleaner, and just a new technology is emerging. Additionally, as far as like the homelessness situation, and how our local government is working on it, and as well as how the state is helping, I think like a lot of my colleagues mentioned, it is a very district sensitive issue, and it's also very statewide. So everything is a bit different. However, as we know, like with the May revise that the governor recently mentioned, we have a $30 billion deficit. But regardless, it's still important to make sure that we're addressing like some of our most vulnerable populations, and making sure that there is like a social safety net. So the assembly member is committed to working with our local government, and especially here within our district in Carson, Signal Hill, Catalina Island, and the city of Long Beach. However, the assembly member does not have a specific bill as of now, or this current session, addressing homelessness. But as I mentioned, some of the committees that he's in, they are, it goes hand in hand with what he's working on. But that's pretty much it on my end. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming out and giving us your time to give us an update from the assembly member. We really appreciate it. It looks like there's no questions this time. Okay, it looks like I think I saw William Mitchell there from Assembly Member Tina McKinner's office. William?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Assemblymember McKinner could not be here today, obviously. As everyone always stated, they are very busy in Sacramento. The member is currently on the Business and Professions Committee. She's doing environmental safety and toxic materials, which primary jurisdiction are toxic substances, hazardous materials, hazardous waste regulation, drinking water, and pesticides. She's on governmental organizations, and then she's also on the, she's chair of Public Employment and Retirement. And she's on the select committee. She's also happy to be chairing the 2028 Olympics and Paralympic Games Committee, which is very exciting for our district, being Inglewood. Some of the bills she's working on right now, she's very excited about AB1, which is a bill to unionize the capital and district staffers. I mean, that doesn't really relate to everybody here, but we in the district and we staffers are very excited about that. She's also working on to talk about homelessness, AB 114, which is, let me find the fact sheet here. Limiting racially motivated crime-free housing programs and nuisance ordinances. The Los Angeles Times found that California jurisdictions adopted crime-free housing programs following an increase in Black and Latino populations in the community, with little or no statistic evidence for the rate in crime rates. So this bill would limit local ordinances that kick people out of their homes for infractions. So if, for example, if I'm living in a home with my mother and my brothers and sisters, and I get arrested, everyone in the home can be kicked out due to that ordinance. This takes the power away from landlords and owners to determine whether they want to kick people out or not. And they're sometimes fined if they don't kick people out under these ordinances. So AB 114 would prohibit cities and counties from enacting crime-free housing programs and nuisance ordinances that do any of the following: require landlords to use criminal background checks. They can use criminal background checks, but it just doesn't require them to do it. So this ordinance just takes the requirements away. It doesn't say that a landlord can't do a background check. It just says that if they do, it's up to them. They can't be fined for not doing it. So she's very excited about that. To look at some of the questions, the state continues to propose legislation that will take away local control. This is one of those issues of local control versus state control. And the member wants to continue collaboration with local city councils, local governances, and there needs to be a collaboration on this housing issue. But as she says, it doesn't happen without communication. We need each other, and we need our local officials to reach out and come up with these solutions. This is a huge issue we're dealing with, and that affects everyone from the highest levels of government to the smallest. And we need to hear from all of you. I know the COGS take position papers, but we just need this to be a collaborative effort. It's such a huge issue. We are dealing with, or we are helping our locals. In Inglewood, we've built so much affordable housing. There's more coming online. There's some coming online in Hawthorne. The real issue is affordable housing. Everybody knows that, and that's what the members concentrating on. We're also looking at improving the schools in our district, because good schools attract residents, keep residents in the district. Let's see. As far as the energy portfolio, we don't really have any legislation on energy at this time. The closest we have to that is the environmental issue, which is a bill on washing machines, microfibers, keeping microfibers out of washing machines. But that's a different issue. Let's see. I'm sorry, guys. She's got so many bills here. I just don't want to just read them.
There's no obligation to answer all the questions.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
no, we appreciate the update and your time today. And are there any questions for William at this point? Okay, it looks like you've covered everything we want to hear. Thank you so much, William, for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, now from Assembly Member Al Marasucci's office, if Eric is here. Hey, Eric.
I'm Eric. Good morning. My name is Eric. I'm here on behalf of Assembly Member Al Marasucci. Joining me is our newest field representative, Jimmy Gao, who covers Torrance. He will be giving final updates at the end of my legislative updates. Some quick legislative updates. The Assembly member has introduced AB 238, which is the Paying Student Teachers Bill. A lot of our bills, like Alina mentioned earlier, are in the Appropriations Committee with the hearing date today. It's actually happening as we speak. So Paying Student Teachers, AB 247, the K through 14 Facilities Bond. If approved by voters, this will establish the Kindergarten through Community College Public Education Facilities Bond Act to help construct and modernize education facilities. Another bill that is also in Appropriations Committee today is AB 67, which is the Homeless Court Pilot Program. And I also wanted to tie this in to one of the questions regarding homelessness. The Assembly member is a huge supporter of 3290, the Torrance Temporary Housing Village. The Assembly member has also supported the Redondo Beach Homeless Court Program. AB 67, the Homeless Court Pilot Program, which establishes a competitive grant pilot program administered by the Judicial Council. It would provide comprehensive community-based services to achieve stabilization for and address specific legal needs for the homeless individuals. Has also introduced AB 1358, which aims at drastically increasing the amount of new transmission infrastructure being built, affected by the power shutoffs last year, and the Assembly member is trying to help address that by increasing infrastructure. Also introduced AB 1216.
Now, we're not,
Public health.
Eric, we're losing a little bit of you. I'm not sure. It just started too, so go ahead and, yeah, there you go.
Me now?
Yeah, just a little bit of delay. Continue on, it's fine.
Will protect public health by requiring any wastewater treatment facility that has an original design capacity of 425 million gallons or more. Line monitoring system capable of measuring hydrogen sulfide, nitrogen oxides, and volatile organic compounds. That bill is currently in the legislative process as well. That you think I'd miss?
No, we can hear you. I think there's a delay because I think your it's picking you up and it's like a 1 second delay.
I hope mine isn't on delay.
No, you're perfect, Jimmy, in terms of audio. Let's go for it.
So just to echo what's been said is we do have upwards of 11 bills that are in appropriations as we speak. I think Eric has covered a lot of them. The Assembly members' bills regarding homelessness and regarding the environment are all either in the appropriations and or have actually passed out of committee and are in the process. And I think, unless Eric has anything more legislatively, we would like to give a few updates on things happening in the community. One thing is we just had a successful event, a senior scam stopper seminar with over 120 attendees in Gardena that also included a free self-defense class with group Seniors Fight Back, very successful. We also had a Torrance Community Coffee this past Saturday. That was very successful. And then we went from there to El Camino College to do a dual enrollment workshop. And that was attended by over 100 people. The Torrance event was attended by 170 of our constituents. So very good event where the Assembly member got to talk to the community and answer questions. Most importantly is this Sunday, the 21st, is the Julian Katz.
Not too close. You got to put it near your face.
Julian Katz. Well, I guess it's I got my background blurred. We'll put this in the chat.
Okay.
But it's the Julian Katz Memorial Bike Ride is back. And we'll be starting in Torrance Park, Miramar Park, and riding along the Strand all the way through Redondo, Hermosa, to the Manhattan Pier and back. And there's also a dedication to a location for Julian Katz, who was a big advocate for bicycle riding in the South Bay. So we're looking forward to everyone coming out for that 9:30 at Miramar Park Torrance Beach. We also have upcoming community events in Redondo Beach, June 17th, Manhattan Beach, July 29th, PV in August, Gardena in September, and Lomita in October. So we are looking forward to meeting our constituents and giving them legislative updates, as well as just hearing their questions and giving them their answers. So, and of course, everyone is invited to all of those. But come out and ride a bike this Sunday.
Terrific. Well, we got some bike riders in this room right here, so I'm sure you get 100+ people there. Jimmy, Eric, thank you so much for your updates. And Eric, I only missed a little bit of what you said. It was just the latter part. We got 99% of everything. So we appreciate
everything on the water, on the water issue, water bill. We couldn't hear everything because the microphone was out.
So that was 1216. That one, it was on wastewater.
I think so, yeah.
And it passed, so we'd have to look and see if it's also landed in appropriations or not. And so I think we're going to end up with an awful lot of these things, like Alina said already, that will need to be updated after the appropriations meeting happened today.
All right, thank you so much for that update. We appreciate it. Okay. So that looks, and I don't think I missed any of the other state representatives, and we can now move to our League of California Cities update and our friend Jeff Kieran. Jeff?
Good morning, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I've got to get some office time in before I head out to the desert for Contract Cities this weekend. As everyone has mentioned, the suspense file and the Appropriations Committee is very much controlling a lot of what we're discussing today. I did just drop a link to our suspense file update story. It has sort of the top 12 or 15 bills that are in the Appropriations Committee that we're hoping, in some cases hoping get out, and in other cases hoping stay in appropriations and stay there for the rest of the year. I do want to mention a couple bills specifically. We supported these two bills from Senator Eggman last year. They're related to behavioral health and helping with the homelessness issues, and that's SB 43 and SB 363. As I said, those are same concept as last year, new bill numbers. We're hoping to get some support for those bills, not only from our local city members, but also from our legislators. Again, that's SB 43 and SB 363. Also in appropriations, no surprise here, SB 423, the Wiener bill that expands SB 35 and eliminates the sunset. We are opposed to that bill. I fully anticipate that will get out of appropriations and be on the floor. Cal Cities is working on a floor alert to our legislators to ask them to vote no on that piece of legislation. And we encourage all of the legislators and our city members to join us in that effort. One bill that I don't think I've spoken about previously is AB 50 by Assemblymember Ward. It would increase coordination and set a timeline, a faster timeline for getting new housing projects connected to the electrical grid. I'm not sure if this is a problem locally in the South Bay, but across the state, there are some projects that are waiting for weeks and weeks just to get connected to the electrical grid once they've been built. So we're hoping that that would speed up the pace of housing production as well. Last bill I want to mention regarding labor, AB 1484 by Assemblymembers Burr would require that temporary employees be included in the same bargaining unit as permanent employees. That increases the costs on our cities for those temporary employees and something that we are opposed to. I just want to mention yesterday, the Los Angeles County Division, we did hold our countywide city managers meeting. So we had city managers from all over the county and many of their staffs getting updates on cybersecurity, We had speakers from the District Attorney's Office of the Law Enforcement Liaison. And we also had a member of the Housing Policy Specialist from HCD there to take questions and certainly get feedback from our city managers on the RENA process and that whole trying to get the housing elements certified. We still have 44 cities in LA County that do not have a housing element, and we're certainly hoping that that relationship between our cities and HCD gets better in future cycles. Other than that, I will just mention that coming up on June 1st, we are hosting Assemblymember Al Meritsuchi to speak about SB 1708, his bill that would have tinkered with Proposition 47. So we're having a whole division meeting that evening, really focused on public safety and our efforts, not only on reforming Proposition 47, but also on fentanyl. So that's all I have for you, but please let me know if you have any questions, and do take a look at that article I dropped in the chat with all the other bill numbers. You'll hear more once the suspense file is over.
Yeah, thank you, John. Jeff, quick question. You mentioned SB 423, and I'm looking at my notes here. It says it would prohibit a city from enforcing its own inclusionary housing ordinance if the income limits are higher than those in SB 35. Are you familiar with that part? And if so, what does that mean?
I am not familiar with that particular aspect of the bill. Can you repeat what you just said?
Sure. SB 423 would prohibit a city from enforcing its own inclusionary housing ordinance if the income limits are higher than those in SB 35.
I will have to take another look at the language there.
Okay.
That's not an aspect of the bill that I had previously been aware of.
Thank you.
Of course.
Question. Jeff, thank you so much, and congratulations on getting yesterday's meeting done in one day. That's incredible. All right, thank you so much. Okay, this is the time for any public comment. If anyone has any comments about today or any updates. And if there aren't any, that's okay. And if we end early, that's good too. Okay, well, I guess for now, did we miss anyone? Okay, very good.
Hi. Hello?
Yes, please.
I had a comment on the Sea Line extension.
I'm sorry, can
And
you say, I'm sorry, can you say your name first before you start speaking?
Yes, it's Chris. I'm a Torrance resident.
Okay.
And I just wanted to register support for using the right-of-way option because it optimizes resources already in place. And, you know, it avoids unnecessary construction of additional rail routes, avoids substantial additional costs. And so I just hope that Metro makes the wise decision and utilizes the existing, the right-of-way option.
Okay, thank you so much for those comments. Anyone else have any comments for today? Okay, I don't see anyone else and anyone else in the room. Okay, it looks like we're good. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for participating today. And we are adjourned to our next legislative meeting on July 13th. Nice.